With that, we welcome you to another hour of Get Up. We're jam-packed this morning with Jalen here, Mike Woodson is here talking basketball, and the Dans, Orlovsky and Graziano, with the very latest on NFL free agency. Legal tampering, this stuff moves quickly. We come to you, as always, live from the Seaport District at Pier 17. We are brought to you by Chase, and here is the menu for hour number 2. It will begin with Russell Westbrook, a truly ugly confrontation with a fan in Utah. How does the NBA keep this from happening again? That's a minute away. On the court, meanwhile, the Warriors suddenly don't seem so golden. We'll tell you exactly what's wrong and what they must do to get it right in time to win it all. Plus, where will Le'Veon go? We've got the destinations that make the most sense and why the fact it hasn't happened yet feels like bad news. Let's get up with you starting right now, and it begins, unfortunately, in Salt Lake City last night, where Russell Westbrook and the Thunder were in town to play the Jazz. Before we show you what happened, we should take you back for context 11 months. Last April, Game 6 of a playoff series. This was halftime. Russell Westbrook walking off the court, gets into it with a fan, alerts security. He's got a problem there. That was halftime. Same game after it was over. You may remember this. He smacks a phone out of that guy's hand. So we've got issues in this same building. Then we take you back to last night. It's the second quarter. Westbrook is on the bench, gets into it with a fan. It was captured on videotape. Here was the moment.
I promise you. You see, I'm playing. I swear to God. I swear to God. You and your wife. You up. I promise you. Everything I love. Everything I love. I promise you.
Now, in the end, Westbrook and the Thunder would win, but that clearly isn't the story here. He was Russell after the game.
How it started was a young man and his wife in the stands told me to get down on my knees like he used to. And for me, that's just completely disrespectful to me. I think it's racial. I think it's just inappropriate in a sense of there's no protection for the players. I think there are a lot of great fans around the world that like to come to the game and enjoy the game. And there are people that come to the game and to say mean, disrespectful things about me, my family. For many years, man, I've done all the right things. I've never done anything to hurt or harm anybody. I've never been in any trouble. Never fought a fan. Been in the league 11 years, clean slate. Disrespect will not be taken from me. I'm completely just sit back sometime and just take it like that. That's just one video, but throughout the whole game, since I've been here, especially here in Utah, every time I come here, it's a lot of disrespectful things I said. And for me, I'm just not going to continue to take disrespect from my family. There's got to be something done. There's got to be some consequences for those type of people that come to the game just to say and do whatever they want to say. And I don't think it's fair to the players, not just to me, but I don't think it's fair to the players. And if I had to do it over again, I would say the same exact thing.
That was Westbrook. His teammate Patrick Patterson tweeted, "Fans can say stuff about a man's family, wife, and kids. Tell a player, get down on your knees like you're used to. As men, what do you expect us to do? Shut up and dribble? No one is held accountable for their actions except for us. Fans are protected in every way possible, but not us." The spectator in question was interviewed after the game. Here's what he said.
He's got to be a professional. I mean, she was sitting down the entire time. Me and him were just... we were kind of having fun, to be honest.
At least you thought you were having fun?
Yeah, he was smiling at one point, and there was a lot of people, because it was when, Joe had come by and poked Paul George in the eye, and then Joe goes over and apologizes immediately. Russ is just F-bombing and carrying on, acting a fool down here, and everybody's getting on him. And he had, I guess, heat. I thought it was ice. I just told him, I'm like, just sit down and ice your knees, bro. And he turned to me and he's like, that's heat. And I'm like, well, you're going to need it. And then it turned into not safe for work.
All right, so there's that. The Jazz released this statement. "We are continuing to investigate the unfortunate exchange at tonight's game between Russell Westbrook and fans. Multiple warning cards are issued by arena security. Players and fans have a shared responsibility to create a safe and respectful environment. If it is determined that any fans violated the NBA code of conduct, appropriate action will be taken. So, Jalen Rose, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, the biggest concern for the league and for everyone involved is that we should ever have another incident like the one we saw with the Malice at the Palace and Ron Artest and all of that a generation ago. So with that thought in mind, what do you think the NBA or anyone else needs to do to see to it that nothing like this happens?
I don't want to see the NBA take a drastic action that takes away the unique interaction that NBA players have with their fans. I think it's the best one in sports. It helps the popularity of the game. It helps the popularity of the players. That's why, if you notice, the popularity of NBA players trumps those in other sports. With that being said, I respect and appreciate what the fans bring to the table. But sometimes the lines get blurred because they feel a sense of ownership. This theory that they pay your salary once they buy a ticket, so now that you get to the game, you can say whatever you want to say. You can be creative with your chants and your jeers and whatnot, but when you name call and it becomes personal, that's when players are going to react.
Mike Woodson, as a player and a coach, you've been in the NBA since 1980, so I have to believe you have seen and heard it all. What is the appropriate way for a player or a coach to react if they hear something from the crowd that they believe crosses that line?
Well, one thing is, the fans is a big part of what we do. It's a big piece of the puzzle, so you can't exclude them. So at the end of the day, the player has just got to be a bigger person and move on. They can't cross that line, man, because when you do, you got to explain yourself at the end of the game that you're sorry about what you did.
Understood, but isn't there a point at which a fan crosses the line? And at that point, I have to believe that everything isn't fair game. What should someone like Russell Westbrook do if he feels that line
It's
is
strictly
crossed?
security. I think that's the easy way out. You go to security and have them talk to the fan or have them removed from the game. That's the only way you get around it.
But if you think about it, they said that the fans were issued red cards. So that means somebody said something that was clearly out of line,
True.
that the security knew was out of line, and they gave them a red card. So you know what happens? Everybody say, oh, they didn't get thrown out. So now everybody else, like a domino effect, continues to chime in because they didn't see this person.
I didn't ask you when we talked about this earlier. Did you ever have anything like this happen to you in the NBA? I mean, something that escalated to a point where it got to be super uncomfortable.
I wasn't going to go here, but now I am. So we were playing a playoff game here at the Garden and playing for the Pacers. It was Hicks versus Knicks, and we had a rivalry. So I was walking through the tunnel, and I looked, and a fan literally threw a towel in my face. And I tried to jump up there and snatch the fan down. And if it was up to me, that fan would be somewhere with a broken neck. But ultimately, I wasn't able to do that, and cooler heads prevailed.
Yeah. Easy now.
Yeah, look, I get it. I understand what you're saying, and no one wants to see something like that happen. But I think that everyone has a responsibility to make sure that it doesn't happen. And I have spent my entire life in arenas, never where you sat or where you sat, but always sitting closer, or generally where the fans sit. I've heard a lot of things that cross the line.
I think hitting somebody in the face with a towel
is, well, of course it is. What human being thinks that's okay? That's my point. And so, listen, all I've ever been is a fan for the most part. So generally speaking, I stand up for the fans in almost every conversation. But I've seen it too many times to just blanketly assume that the fan is in the right in most circumstances.
By moving on. You did the right thing.
Moving on. And after the game, I must say this too. After the game, I know Russ said that he wouldn't have said anything different. I think when he looks back at the footage, he's going to wish he didn't include the wife part into that. I really believe that.
Okay, we'll leave it here. There's obviously a lot more to be said about this. Let's get up and go, though, because there's a million things that happened in the world of sports yesterday. Jalen, I want to start with the Celtics. They gave up 140 points to the Clippers last night. What did you see?
The Clippers are balling this year. People thought they were punting on the season when they traded away Tobias Harris. Gallinari's been healthy. Lou Williams has scored more points than any sixth man of the year. Shaman has been making threes. Beverly locking down on D. The Clippers are a legit playoff team in the tough Western Conference.
Getting up and going next. Season high 9th straight win for the Rockets. Boy, are they playing great. Are they once again the Warriors' biggest threat out west?
Absolutely. And I hate to say I told you so, because I'm a guy that knows that the Warriors were without Trevor Ariza while the Rockets were without Chris Paul in the playoffs last year. I think if both of those guys were in the lineup, the Rockets would have beat them then. So now once they moved on from Carmelo Anthony and they rebuilt their team, they added Fareed, they added Austin Rivers, they got back healthy. Tucker's making corner threes, Harden's playing at an MVP level. I really think the Houston Rockets have what it takes. along with the Oklahoma City Thunder, to make the Golden State Warriors sweat.
All right, this happened last night. Raptors center Serge Ibaka and Cavaliers forward Marquise Chris both ejected after getting into a physical altercation. Do you expect to see any sort of suspensions coming out of this?
Absolutely. I anticipate Serge is going to get probably 3 to 5 games based on that punch right there. Marquise Chris will probably get 1 or 2 games. Obviously, you don't encourage violence or fisticuffs in the game, but every now and then tempers prevail. I was actually one of the 5 people watching this game live when it happened, and I just